Sorry, you're on mute, Mr.
Hi everyone, this is Mohammed Ilyas, founder of BCC Healthcare, and happy to meet you all through this fantastic platform. AHMP Dialogue is the title of this series, and this is the second dialogue we are having. So here we are inviting Dr. Lakshmi Vaswani, who is the founder of HealthVerse. So happy to have you in this program, Doctor. Can you hear me, Doctor?
Yes, I can. Thank you so much, Mr. Elias, for having me on this and having me talk about a subject that is very interesting to me. So, thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Doctor. AHMP is always in the forefront of creating dialogues on anything and everything relating to ethical marketing, relating to the healthcare marketing aspect. And we deep dive into various aspects and various topics relating to marketing. The idea of this platform is we don't have enough literature on the subject of healthcare marketing and very, very specific to the Indian context. We do have some healthcare marketers who are doing fantabulous job, who are either employed at the healthcare organizations or who are running agencies or who are also acting as a freelancer who have enough and more experience on this area. And we would like to bring the best of the best minds to this program and showcase what are the right practices that can be implemented, adopted at all levels in a healthcare organization, and that can become the norm for conducting the ethical marketing practices at any healthcare organization. So that's the whole idea behind doing this series. And today we have Dr. Lakshmi Vaswani. So we have an interesting topic for the day. It's all revolving around content. So, and I have some very interesting questions I framed out. Um, and there are a lot of people who also asked me to ask these questions basically. So I have a load of questions, and also there are a few important insights I have as we dwell down deeper into this subject to share with you. So let's start the discussion. So, doctor, what is your initial take? So the topic that we have is solutions for common healthcare content marketing challenges. So what is your initial take? What comes to your mind when you talk about when somebody asks you something relating to this? And what is your personal experience on this subject on a very lighter note?
Well, I actually, my personal experience on this has been purely accidental. If you think about it, I just fell into this very, very accidentally. I was a practicing pathologist in a hospital, so my, interaction with the marketing team has always been on a very superficial level. They come, they ask for content, and then they go away, and we give them anything that we feel like, which is relevant to us. But I did realize that doctors have a very I think one step away idea of what actually patients want to hear and the tone in which they want to hear it in. I felt that there was a disconnect there because we tend to speak. I feel, at least personally, I used to speak and write like the opposite person was very well aware of what I was talking about, not realizing that maybe they have a lot of questions that I'm not answering, and I'm not giving them the right answers to the questions that they have in their mind. The only way to get that across is to actually you know really could think about how we are communicating to our patients. So while it started very accidentally, I just started writing a blog, and we it went forward from there, and I drilled down into actually why this content that we have available, medical content that's available on the internet, how important it is. And its role is so important because people depend on it. When they don't have access to a doctor, when they want ready and fast answers, they are dependent on Google. So if doctors are not present and medical professionals are not present online, somebody else is giving them wrong information, which can then lead to a lot of health issues in later on. So if we're not there in that space, it's going to be filled up by someone else. So it's better that patients are getting the correct information from us, stuff that is scientifically validated, stuff that has been well researched, stuff that has basis to it, and comes from a wealth of experience, because we know that health is a very YMYL topic. It's a your money, your life topic. So it's very important for us to have the right information and prevent misinformation out there. So that's been my, that's why I got into it, is to basically make sure that the people we're talking to have the correct information from the right source. Right.
That was really beautiful. More on the journey and also the very important cause that you have undertaken. So
Yes.
doctors not only fight disinformation during inside the consultation room, also with the right information, you can come out on the social media and you can fight disinformation here by providing the right information. That's really important thing, because here you never know who are the beneficiaries or the people who are actually consuming your content and are affected by it because the content is wrong. And if you're not putting out the right content, then definitely that is going to be a big gap. And also I see there was a healthcare influencer act, wherein only doctors are supposed to give right information. So what is your take on that? You're talking
Yeah.
about disinformation, and this act also came into place, and there are a lot of people giving various different ideas. I think it's all correlating and coinciding. What is your thought on that?
So my thoughts may not go with the status quo, but I fully believe that um, if the content is, and I'm only judging the content here, I'm not judging anything else around it. If the content that is being put out there is educational, is informative, it helps people, then I personally don't care about any um, financial implications of it or any, sponsorships, none of that. At the end of the day, who's benefiting? If the patient benefits from your content, however you've come about it, it's all well and good. There are rules in place for a reason. They want us to focus more on education and more on information, which I think is very valid. We should focus on that because that, like I said, has been my mantra from the beginning. Get the right information out there. So if that's happening through brand sponsorships or different companies, so be it, because everyone else is doing it. It might as well, like I said, come from the person who has the experience in the matter.
Okay. So I would like to ask you about this. There was a recent act from NMC
Hmm.
which got published on August 2nd, if I'm not wrong. And
Yeah.
then again, it was nullified or suspended
Yes.
just a couple of days ago. And there were a lot of interesting things about content, social media content that can go. And there are a lot of rules and regulations. And we were actually starting to understand it more deeply and get into it. By the time we could understand it, even organize a awareness session on that, it got nullified, and then we had to completely come back. And they have given some saying that the 2002 regulations are still applicable. And what is your take on that, doctor? Whether there is a regulation whether there's an act like this coming in or not,
Yeah.
how does someone think about this content which goes onto the social media? Being mindful of the act is one thing. Now that it is nullified or suspended, should we take it so lightly? What is suspended is not completely gone off. You never know
Right.
when it can come back.
No,
So, what's the right way to approach this, or what is the right way to think about it, doctor?
I understand it because we are mindful that the public is also watching us, right? So it's not just the government. We have now public awareness about the fact that we have to be responsible now about the way that we conduct ourselves on social media. It is not going to be the free for all that we had experienced because of COVID, and it was pretty lax. I agree, and I've always maintained regulation is never unwelcome. It's there for a reason, and I think that the objection for the act was more about the pharma and all of that. As far as the social media thing is concerned, I come back to the basics. I want to look at the content that you're putting out before I judge any other doctor, before I create my own content for another doctor. Is is my content purposeful in some way? Is it helping a patient make a decision about his or her health? That is as simple as it goes for me. Either it's helping you or it's not. If it's a fully ad based, very corporate, very commercial post, forget about getting in trouble with the act. I would think that you're going to lose patience and trust as well. So we're not. It's just my personal opinion, but I don't think we're salespeople. So there's, medical influencer. That's one thing, but we're not salesmen. So that's a distinguishing factor that I think we learn how to do. with more regulation when the revised regulation comes out, which I'm sure is coming. I'm pretty sure, it is going to come back. So.
Yes, basically the contention was more on the other subjects, was nothing to do with social media. You never know when it is going to come back.
We never
But
know.
the point is very interesting to note that, regulations on one side, if supposing you really want to win the hearts of people that you're really wanting to impress, you can't fake sincerity. You have to act sincere and you have to be really helpful to people, and that's the only way out. You can't
100%.
create a staged show as such and then you fall flat later on. It has to come from deep within the sincere effort. That's really the right thing to go forward.
I couldn't have said it
And
better myself. Yeah. I couldn't have said it better myself. It was very well said. Yeah.
thanks for that, doctor. Doctor, we've been like, I run an agency, and there are a lot of people from the marketing side who are also watching this particular video of ours. I would like to understand, when we talk about medical, of course, a lot of it is very instructional in nature. Symptoms,
Yeah.
causes, diseases, and that's the way how it goes, and treatment options, and 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Is it not something very boring after a point? See, initially when nobody spoke about it, when there was no content on it, when hospitals were initially starting to create content, that time it was fine, it was very helpful, relatable, and all that. Now you go to
Mhm.
Google and you search for the tons of such information available.
Yeah.
The idea of the information was already available. The information is still available, provided by the hospitals. But what is the way forward? The idea is, how do we make it really reach the general public? What are the different ways? How we can, bring this content out, the way, the formatting, structuring, or the presentation of it, that can make this thing much more interesting. The idea is to reach the minds and the hearts. What
Yeah.
can be the way how we can do it?
So there's several ways, right? So we don't necessarily have to package the same pill everywhere. We can mix it up. Just because it's medical content and it is serious, don't get me wrong, but there is a way to personalize it or to make it more human, because we are talking about human beings at the end of the day. So the first thing that we can talk about is patient stories, because that is that element of storytelling. So supposing you're writing just a general blog about heart disease, right? You have to start with heart disease is prevalent in X amount of population and this percent. It's just data. So how about if you start with a patient story, like an actual Mr. Raj who collapsed on the field while playing football, and make it more about him, that this could actually happen to somebody, and this is what happened to him. He was admitted in the hospital, he underwent these procedures and these investigations, and this is what we found out, and oh, by the way, this is what a heart attack is, and this is why it could happen to you, this is why you're at risk. You're giving the same information, you're just giving it in a storytelling way. You've given a person, you've given a face to the story, and you've kind of made him relate to it. Maybe there's another 40-year-old playing football out there who says, oh, maybe I should be more aware of it. That's the idea, to kind of make it more relatable to someone.
Storytelling is a very interesting subject, doctor. Can you give something, throw some more light on, the storytelling in everyday scenario? Because what I see is, whenever I interact with the hospital authorities, the management, or the chief doctor himself, what they tell us is there is so much happening in our hospital every day,
Yeah.
but they're so busy they can't really, record these stories, or capture this input and then present it outside. But every day there are so many stories happening.
Yeah.
What is the way through which, in a very simple, it should be very simple, it should be easily doable by a doctor. You being a doctor, you can understand the pain, and maybe a doctor speaking to a doctor can understand a doctor, make a doctor better understandable, because there are a lot of things that you as doctors understand it well. Maybe the marketers don't really understand it that well. You are a fine combination in that way. We just need to understand how do we really, capture these stories and bring it out. The
I think
presentation of the story is one thing that is very beautiful from your side, but how do we really capture these stories, segment
yeah.
these stories, grade these stories, filter these stories, and then put out that one story that really makes an impact, that goes viral?
Well, that's the aim, virality. But I think the first thing that we think about when you talk about, talking to anybody, whether it's a doctor, a nurse, any allied medical professional, when they're in the middle of their day, to tell them to sit down and write something or record something with lights and selfie sticks on. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody has the time for that. So if you can compromise a little bit on video quality, compromise on that because you want to get the essence of what they're saying, be ready to meet them where they are. Be ready to go into the OT, be ready to go into the lab, be ready to go into the wards. Have a 2-minute discussion with them. It can even be, apologize, buy them a cup of coffee and say, hey, this is your break. Sit down and chat with me for 5 minutes about your day and tell me what happened. A nurse can give you insight on, maybe she had a patient that day who came and didn't know what she should bring with her when she's coming into the labor room, or she was admitted for a surgery and didn't know. And maybe that could be an idea for a blog for you. Give a list of all the things that you would need when you come into the hospital for a surgery. Make sure you pack your bag in this way, so that, and the nurse would know that, because she then has to, she said, I had to help this patient out because she came with nothing that she was supposed to come with because she didn't know. So be ready to not maybe stick to the traditional forms of interviewing. Be ready to have even audio notes on WhatsApp. You can have a story that way and you can write it. As a marketer, you're gifted with that. We have a lot of tools available. So you need the input from the subject matter expert. It doesn't really matter the format in which it's come in, right? You can attribute that content to him. You can credit him for it, but you can do the heavy lifting in this case if you really want the stories to come out.
And just a little bit more on that. Very interesting take. I never heard of this part of taking a break, sitting with them, and anyway you sit and chit chat, right? That is the relaxed time. You anyway talk about this. This is what
Yes.
happened today in the OT. You talk about it, and that capture of information, that very lighter moment, I think, is the game all about. But who's going to do this? See, you see, there is a complete disconnect.
Yeah.
The agencies work within their environments. This is a very bold question I'm asking, because this also affects us as an agency. But I have to put this question out because we need to figure out a way through this discussion, through this dialogue. What is the way forward for this? So, so we are all confined to our places, and then the doctors are there in their places, and then we take up one fine day, one marketing meeting, and then we discuss about a lot of things, and these stories don't really come out. Should there be a person inside the organization? Should there be a media room? Should there be some small nimble setup inside the organization, or a person who takes care of, who's given the mandate of how to pick up these stories? Should we give some sort of a training? Maybe it's an agency, we can train them better. Maybe there can be some formats in which we can give them. Or what could be the right way, doctor? Is this a doable format, do you think?
I think it is. I think if you have the budget for a dedicated person, nothing like it. Of course, everyone would love the budget for extra staff, I think. But in reality, when you are struggling with a smaller budget or a smaller department, then every hospital, as far as I know, may have somebody who is in customer or patient relations. There's always an executive, definitely, even in the smaller setups, there will be somebody who looks after patient pain points. That person is generally conversational, they're friendly, that's part of their job. So their job is to kind of get information from people. Training somebody with already that kind of personality trait is easier than getting somebody from the back end who's good with a computer to now suddenly go and interview people and ask questions to doctors. If you have somebody who's already on the ground, already in the wards, already, talking to patients and talking to doctors and trying to communicate between them, trying to facilitate a communication, it's much easier for them to go to a doctor in the doctor's lounge or, outside the OT and say, hi, did you experience anything today, or what happened with this patient, or, it's just easier. But yes, training definitely helps, because then you're not um, spending or allocating resources on a completely new thing. And I'm not sure about a media room. Like, I feel like, that scares hospitals when you tell them media rooms. So then they think about space. As it is, space in the cities, most cities are, a problem. So I think that we need to be a little bit more relaxed with the content that we have. We don't need these big productions, especially in healthcare. It should be on the fly. If you see a lot of, aside from medicine, when you see a lot of the influencers who are fashion influencers, or, even just regular lifestyle influencers, they're very real in their stories. They're literally going about their day and they're filming it. They don't care that they've just come out of bed and they're filming content. So I think we need to be a little more relaxed with the way that we spend too much time on getting the words right, getting the background right, getting the situation right, and we lose opportunities to get the story out when it's relevant, right? So I think we time is because everything in healthcare changes so fast. Like we saw with the bill, one day it's there, one day it's not. So we need to be like, we really need to be fast about these things. That's all.
That's really interesting, doctor. Now, I have another question to you. Now, when we're talking about content, we are talking about doctors who don't really have time. And
Yeah.
even when if we catch them, maybe, if every day catching up is not a reality, maybe if they give time even over a weekend, maybe say a Saturday or a Sunday, they sit and just do a voice note and send it in WhatsApp. So that is something really convenient. Even if
Yeah.
they do that much, I think they can do a lot more. But how do you really look at this content? You get some content from doctors. Are they really sure? And how do you use this content? Are there multiple ways we can use the content,
Yeah.
or the multiple formats in which we can use the content? One content in multiple places. How have you used it? Any case studies? Any case scenarios on that, doctor? Please.
Well, um, the thing is that so for example, right, I believe that when we get information, when we're talking specifically from subject matter experts, right, so we're talking doctors, nurses, anyone in healthcare. It can either even be a healthcare leader, somebody working in human resources. You may want to give somebody who is in the marketing department or in the finance department. Basically, in TPA, there's so many things in a hospital setup that you can write about. Even claims is a really good topic because people are very confused about how to get claims organized in a hospital. So that could be, a whole section of blogging there. But whatever when you're talking to a subject matter expert, I feel the most convenient way to get a big section of or a big chunk of information together is if you can get them to sit down like we're talking right now, a webinar, a conversation, something that is, ideally face to face or a conversation. With that, you record it, ask their permission to record it, even if it's just a conversation. Now you have your master content, right? You have all these really good pieces of information. You have this rich information that you've sat down and, dissected different topics. You have that. Now you just transcribe it. Start with simple things first. Simple transcription, you have everything written down and you have words on a piece of paper. That's the biggest thing. Staring at a blank piece of paper is the worst thing. So when you have words on a piece of paper, it starts you off. Then when you have the transcribed information, you can then segment it. You can say, okay, this is a topic that I can write about. You can identify blog topics. You can identify posts for social media. Then you work on creating those topics for different platforms. So you can write the blog out, put it onto your website. You can get the social media content out, put it on a carousel, put it on an image post, send that out onto Facebook and Instagram. You can create snippets. If it's a video like this, we create snippets of very interesting bits, and we use that as 2 or 3, 60-second videos for Instagram Reels, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts. Of course, the entire thing, if it's filmed like this, we share the link on YouTube directly, we share it on LinkedIn. That's one way of distribution. And then we convert the entire thing. The audio can be converted into a podcast, stream it on Spotify. So we are using the same bit of content, but we are specifying it and we are converting it to that it fits into different platforms, right? So we are using our content smartly. We are not spending on resources. We're not spending on generating new content all the time. We are making the existing content work for us, right? And there's a definite advantage here because we are now being very cohesive. Supposing you have started off like a webinar or some or topic on heart disease. At that point, for that entire month, all your channels are talking about heart disease. Everywhere you're talking a consistent topic that has been spread to every possible audience on your channels in different ways, right? So some people may not like the written word, some people may not listen to podcasts, but they appreciate an image. So convert what you can to an infographic, put it on Pinterest. It makes it easily shareable. They're more likely to share it on WhatsApp and just spread it around, and your brand name is everywhere because all your infographics will have your brand name at the bottom. So it's mind memory. It's just brand memory. It just keeps you in their minds. And at the end of the day, you can also go on a public platform like Quora or Reddit. These are, you have a lot of questions over there that can be asking. They may be asking about heart disease or the topic that you've written about. Look for questions related to that, answer those questions, and give your webinar or your blog or your stuff as reference. So then you are finding more ways to get people to go onto your piece of content or onto your channels, basically. So you're not waiting for people to come to you. The thing about just uploading a link and leaving it out there is that you're waiting for people to come across that link and then come to you. Here you're actively distributing your content and saying, putting it as easily across multiple platforms as you can.
That was really brilliant, Doctor. A lot of different avenues. You covered the channel and the format.
Yeah.
Is producing content expensive? There's another big question. People are thinking that they have to incur a lot of money to do those. Maybe when you're having an agency, you pay for an agency. But for content, I just want you also to add to this, Doctor. There's a big confusion out there for producing content. Whatever Dr. Lakshmi just now spelled out, so many different things. You don't even really have to spend one single rupee on this. If your phone camera is good enough, you can do a lot of light form of content, which Doctor just now mentioned. Doctor, you can add more on that, Doctor.
I completely agree. All we actually need is, frankly, a good camera. And if you're a writer, not even that, because you're looking at, a lot of free software that's available. So another thing I'd really like to focus on when it comes to why I believe in multi-purposing your content, right, is that yes, we need to keep costs reasonable. We can't expect a smaller setup with a smaller marketing department, even a one-person marketing department, to sit and do all of this at once. That's why it's so important that when you get your hands on a piece of content, you make it run as far as you can. You try and multi-purpose it in a lot of ways. That's why when you think about content marketing, think of it as a machine. A machine has an engine and it has fuel. So you have to have the right processes in place, right? And that's how the gears of an engine, they work together, and when everything's working smoothly, the machine works smoothly. If something goes wrong and you feel like it's not getting you the results, and you pump that machine or your engine full of fuel, it really doesn't matter. So it's still not going to work. So your content and what you're paying for, this new content, let's try different content, let's try a different writer, let's try a different agency, let's try something, because nothing is working. You're just spending a lot on fuel when the actual problem is your engine. You've not utilized the content you have properly, right? So it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be thought out strategically. That's all. So when we have that, when we have ways that we can use free software that's now available, right? We have a lot of automation that's available now. ChatGPT, everyone knows about, but before the world of ChatGPT, before we had AI on our radar, there were a lot of automated platforms that could get you really just automated transcribing software. You have automated uploads for podcasting. We have a lot of scheduling software for social media posts. You can schedule and post on multiple platforms at the same time. You have automated Canva, Adobe Spark. These are very plug and play models. You don't need coding, you don't need to know much about technology. A short free course can get you very familiar with Canva, and it's very easy to do. Everything is also integrated in Canva now. You can post directly from Canva to social media platforms. You don't even need the in-between planning tool anymore. Of course, now we have AI generated images, right? We have Midjourney and a lot of the others where you can create your own custom images. So technology has made it very simple for you to figure out the tools you need, and then maximize automation as much as possible. Try not to spend on manual labor and time, basically.
That was beautiful. So, if I just have to ask you a few questions, very important and pertinent questions, which you even touched upon, like a single doctor who has to run the practice and also has to do digital marketing, how much time they should spend on marketing to make them like omnipresent in the digital space, or at least create a decent impact on the digital space, and what they should be precisely doing in nutshell.
I think for a doctor who has not hired any marketing person at all and is in
Exactly.
his or her clinic, the easiest thing you can do is create videos, reels, and put them up with a frequency of minimum three per week. With your reels, yeah, I fully believe that every day maybe a little much because, but reels are so easy. The Instagram platform has made it really convenient for you to, even add in the subtitles within the app itself. You can add in your song of choice, you can put in the green screen, you can put up, the papers that you're talking about, you can put up the images that you're talking about. So we have a lot of doctors who are able to figure this out on their own without too much, and all they need is their phone. They don't need a laptop, anything. It's just the app and their phone. That is the most user friendly way to go about it, I feel. Yeah.
That's really nice, doctor. I just want to add on top of it. I had one of my classes on the digital marketing space, and I had a group of doctors that I was coaching them on various. It was a 4 week class.
Yeah.
On week two, I said, you all have to come prepared with the video in the third week of the class. And
Yeah.
I had surprisingly one doctor who came back and he said that yes, I did it, and there are a few other doctors who said I did it. What I asked them was not just prepare 1 minute video where there's a question, there is an answer. You only
Yeah.
answer the query. That's enough. Because people in the Google or everywhere, they're only trying to find answer for something. And if
Correct.
your question matches with whatever they're looking for, definitely they look at your answer.
Yes.
Interestingly, this doctor, okay, he came back and he said, yes, Ilyas, I did. I asked, how many videos did you do, doctor? He said, I followed your advice. What I told him was on a Sunday, you just had to spend 3 hours, get maximum content out. He told me he was able to create 150 videos. That was way too much. But still, the point is, it's easy to generate content if they know the trick of it. The trick is very simple, as you rightly said. Just
Yes.
creating 1 minute videos wherein you can just answer one query, nothing else. And even if
Nothing.
you don't have much editing skills, initially you can just post it raw. Little later you can do a little bit of fine tuning and you can do the editing.
Yeah.
Just have to get started. Get into the
Just
business. Okay, that's very important.
yes. Yes. I feel like a lot. That's a very interesting point that you brought up right now, is to put the first step, like take the first step, because that I feel, we often get stuck in our own heads, about,
Exactly.
maybe this will not go right, or, it doesn't
Exactly.
have to be perfect.
Perfect.
Perfection is overrated, I think. You just get it out
Another,
there.
you're right.
It's,
Another question, what I've been asked, so many times, which I want to ask you also. I tried
right.
answering them partly. Elias, there is always content on something or the other. Even if I put my content out, will people watch this content or not? So these
That is
questions
a
are
tough one.
already answered by so many people. The same question I'm asking you, doctor. Now,
That
should they create a content? So what,
should
what
they
is
do
your
it? I just say that there is plenty of place for everyone.
super,
It's a
very good.
huge market. For that
Correct.
matter, then why would there be three restaurants serving the same food on the same street? I mean,
Everyone has a
because
different
there are
appetite.
everyone has a different appetite, everyone has a different budget, everyone has a different liking. I think with doctors, it's just, do I like this doctor, or do I not? Is he friendly? Is she or she friendly? Are they approachable? Do I like, the content that they're giving? It Everyone has a personal preference. So
Even if I know the answer, still I want to listen this from this doctor, right? That is also the
yes,
just
yeah,
to validate what I know is
exactly,
right.
exactly. Yeah.
So the kind of hunger which is now there in the market is more. The demand is more for consuming such content.
I
That
agree.
the hunger is more is what we can see with more and more consumption. The hunger is not getting settled. You would have
No.
watched 10 videos today or 20 videos today, and that is like nothing for you. Maybe you've got more now. You can process more. Your brains have become much more which can consume lot more information and process it much better. I think I should leave this
I
floor open to the Q&A now. The question and answer floor is open. If you are watching this video now, this live program, you can ask your questions. I can pick and choose your questions and I can ask doctor. And also there is one more thing you touched upon, September. So September happens to be your heart awareness month.
Yes.
And
Yes.
so how does someone plan on this awareness month? An awareness month you're talking about, how does someone plan? And we'll talk very much at a very micro level, an individual trying to do things.
Right.
So
Um,
what should
I
they be
think,
doing? Heart month is coming, a cardiologist is there. So what he should be
yes.
doing in that case?
I think, that's the thing. When you're starting small, you start easy, right? So you have a month and you say, I have 20 days maybe. I don't want to do more than that, but maybe I have 20 days, so I need 20 topics. Just note them down. Just go to a Quora, go to a Reddit, go to Answer the Public. These are very open, free platforms, and just see what are people looking for. What are the most common questions that they're asking. For heart awareness, of course, there's the number of young people and relatively healthy people who are suffering from heart attacks these days. It's a very common question, right? And everyone wants a doctor's take on it. It's trending topic. So find out more trending topics like that. It's just a little bit of research goes a long way, because once you put, it's just a few keystrokes and you can get a whole, and definitely 20 questions you're going to find, 20 of the most commonly asked questions you're going to find. So you narrow it down and then you figure out what you can possibly do. What are you good at? I know doctors who can't speak in front of the camera. They just don't like it. They don't want to do it. So then if that's not your forte, if you can't speak in front of the camera, if you can't record conversations, your forte may be writing, maybe creating images and posts, maybe creating interesting captions. There's a market for you as well. There may be somebody who really doesn't get anything just by listening to something. They want to read it and understand it with a reference. So you have your audience out there. You decide that this is the so once you've chosen the topic, you choose your avenue. What medium are you going to use? Are you going to use the written? Are you going to use a podcast? Are you going to use interviews? Are you going to use your own videos or reels? Two doctors can even come together, a cardiologist and maybe an
Exactly.
endocrinologist come together, put
I wanted to, you picked up the right topic now. See,
yeah,
generally, it's not about competition, it's about collaboration. I think,
yes,
if you can add this component to it, and if you can do a little bit
exactly,
deeper on this, because,
yeah,
how do doctors co-create content? How they can create and facilitate more dialogues that can be helpful to public, and they can be from two different hospitals also. They are not
also
competition. There is no competition here. It's all about collaboration. It's all about public awareness. I just want your take on that.
100%. But for that you need the right person on your wavelength for sure. It helps that the medical community is not that big, so we all at some point in a city at least know each other. So
Exactly.
it helps. It definitely does. I think that during COVID we saw a large amount of it. I thought it was very nice. The amount of collaborations that we saw then, I think somewhere it kind of died down after COVID, but I think to re-establish that would be great. And if we can just use simple things maybe like what you said about heart, right? So it is so dependent on so many other issues. Like we could talk about then obesity, we can talk about diabetes, we can talk about so many other um, ailments that can come in at that point of time and give their own kind of viewpoint on this, because you're treating a person, you're treating a condition that can have various sources, right? So yeah, you don't have to have just two cardiologists. You can have a bunch of doctors coming together and actually giving their own viewpoints. A GP is the best person, I feel. There's a severe lack of GPs. I feel that we need more of them, because I feel everyone's a super specialist. But the a general physician will know exactly what patients come with their regular questions that they have to ask. So that to have somebody like a general practitioner there, and asking the specialist these questions, like when we have cases like this, what do we do? What is the best situation? That shows it's the epitome of collaboration, I feel. So
That was very nice, doctor. I'd like to ask this question to you. What are your secret sources of information when it comes to, coming up with a very trending topic or a viral kind of a topic? Or how do you really arrive at something like that, which can really, create a lot of sensation and catch a lot more eyeballs? Do you have any such secret resources or secret sauce, if you would like to reveal, that can benefit the audience of this program?
no, so honestly, I believe a lot in my For You page. I've cultivated my algorithms, and I don't like anyone messing with my algorithms. Because so what I did was I have a company profile, so that's Dr. Lakshmi Aswani, and I have my personal profile, and I don't mix the two at all. So when I have curated content on my professional page, which I follow, a lot of the trending doctors, a lot of the med influencers abroad, the US and UK based and Australia based doctors, simply because they have less regulation than our doctors do. They are allowed to do a lot of ads They're allowed to use a lot of they're allowed to tie up with pharma companies for a lot of ads. So there were so many interesting campaigns that they've tied up with, really nice ones. And a lot of them also share their TikTok, because we don't have access to it, so they have a lot of information on TikTok which they then share on their Instagram platforms. And you kind of you're I feel we're like 2 weeks ahead when we see that stuff, because that'll come to us later. When Instagram makes it a trend, we see it, but it's already been trending on TikTok for quite some time. So I think that I've cultivated that account to specifically track trends. So if you have like a spam account, or people call it a spam account, I call it like an account that you use specifically to do this, to do your research, so that it doesn't mess with your personal account, it doesn't mess with your personal algorithm, and you're focused on exactly these things: medical trends, medical innovations, marketing topics. These are different. It's just something I do. Yeah.
Really great, doctor. There's a question which has come. It talks
Yeah.
about. Um, I want to ask, what is your take on EEAT as Google ranks health articles that are rich in quality, authority, and personal expert voices? How
Yeah.
important is this as compared to an on-page SEO? Also, how to reach out to healthcare professionals for expert voices?
It's a great
Very
question.
interesting question. Over to you, doctor, please.
So I think Google's EAT is super important, right? So it is the cornerstone of why I believe doctors should be writing content. Whether you know how to write it or not, get a ghostwriter, hire an agency, whatever you want to do, but it should be your voice on those pages. Your content, your point of view. You should have seen that content before it goes up on your website, or if you have authored it in any way. I do believe that, because that again goes back to authentic information. Somebody has to have reviewed it. One of the best ways and we know this, is just that Google prefers if you have created a bio page for that writer on your website, correct? So we need a credential. I need to know where this content has come from. So even large companies like a Pharmacy or a Tata MG, whatever, any of those companies that are putting up mundane topics on just drugs and just their components, that has also gone through a doctor who has edited it and at least reviewed it. And that doctor's name and credentials are on that piece of content. So that does two things. When I'm reading it as a consumer, I definitely know that this is medically validated. It's been verified, it's been reviewed by somebody who is brave enough to put their name on it, and will take responsibility if something goes wrong on that thing, because I'm assigning authority to that person. They may have to take responsibility for the action that they've committed. Right? It's not just an anonymous blog, and I have no idea if I follow that. I don't have anybody to um, go to if something goes wrong, right? So I feel like that Google automatically rewards that by having a bio page. So there are a lot of, um, you know, uh, I think clients right now who have told me that, okay, great, if there are doctors there, we ghostwrite for them, because they may not have the time to write it themselves. So can you ghostwrite it for them? And they have a specific bio page, and we write for them. Or if it is a company and they want just a medical opinion, then they create a bio page for me. So then I have to stand behind the content that I have written. Either way, I'm assigning a name and a face and a degree to that piece of content, which gives it automatically more trustworthiness, which is the T that expertise and trustworthiness, which is what Google is looking for.
There are two more
Um,
questions that come, doctor.
yeah,
We have to be just wrapping up a bit. Yeah, just
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, how to reach out to healthcare professionals for expert voices. I found the best way to do that is strangely through LinkedIn. I've cold messaged quite a few people and gotten quotes from them quite readily. I feel LinkedIn is a very open community, and I've found most of my opportunities for collaborations or expert voices, quotes. Everything has come through LinkedIn. So I think just don't be afraid. You think, oh, I'm reaching out to somebody who doesn't even know me. But if they're on LinkedIn, they're definitely there to network and make connections. So I think it's worth a shot if you do that.
We need to have a separate session on LinkedIn. I think that's a very underutilized tool, especially in this
In
space.
medicine.
Yes,
Yes, definitely.
exactly. So,
Yeah.
apart from patient stories and blogs for personal branding, what are the other things that we can do to personalize the content?
I think humor is a good thing. I didn't, humor is great because I think we take ourselves a little too seriously. So try memes. Memes are a really good way to personalize content because if you see, memes are like very, they're very sarcastic and they kind of go into patient, like they can be used for pain points, right? They're just a funny way of showing depression, funny way of doing these things. So it makes it more relatable, and you can use that as a hook. Say, okay, if there's a meme on, on maybe something ludicrous like some myth or something, you can use that as a starting point, as a conversation starter, and say, that there was a myth on conjunctivitis last week. Like we because of the range of conjunctivitis, we were writing a lot of conjunctivitis blogs and and social media posts. There was a meme about I think, looking into somebody's eyes and getting conjunctivitis, that's a myth. So we use that as a way to bust that myth and say, no, actually conjunctivitis is. So you can use it, a lot of vectors, a lot of memes. I like that as a personal touch.
That was very interesting. Take. Heart diseases generally affect an elderly population. What is your suggestion on the type of content that caters more to the elderly population? It's a very interesting thing.
Yeah.
So that we can engage with them. Elderly population engagement. Yeah.
That's true, because I always think about the elders in my family, and I think and tell them, if I send them links, it's like it's impossible, right? How do they go through that kind of information? How do they, I think what and also this brings a very important point about regional languages as well, because I feel like if we put all our content out in English, we're going to lose a big market of a population which, for elderly population, I don't believe written word is a great idea, because you're expecting them to sit down and actually read it, and a lot of them don't use it for reading social media as much. They want to FaceTime, they want to use it to be in touch with their relatives and stuff. So I think video is a great way, and videos in regional languages is a great way to get to that age group or that section of that demographic of patients that we have. But otherwise, putting things in print media becomes expensive. So in this day and age, even though I have a lot of doctors who tell me my patient demographic are people above the age of 70 who may or may not be on Instagram, Facebook, or any of these platforms. I would say WhatsApp then. I think
WhatsApp.
every
You
WhatsApp
catch
is
them
very.
on WhatsApp. Yeah.
Yes, you catch them on WhatsApp, So I think digitally, WhatsApp and videos, and if you can afford it, your regional newspaper.
That was really beautiful and very interesting, Doctor. I think a lot of very interesting points are spoken and a lot of interesting takeaways, according to me. And the beautiful one was, humor. That I'll
Yeah,
definitely take it as a point that I would definitely want to use it in various communications. Memes and humor, I think that is something really
yeah.
fantastic that we need to all be using. So, any closing comments, Doctor? With that, we will go ahead and close the program.
Well, I mean, thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been a lovely conversation. Like I said, talking about something that means a lot, just personally. So, and it's been fun answering your questions. Thank you so much for them. With that, I just like to encourage anyone who's new in medical writing to just put their first words out there. There's so much. Don't be conscious about your English or your communication. There are tools to help you, but if you have something to say, just put words on a paper and get it out there. We can refine it later, we can correct it later, but as long as it's scientifically validated and accurate, don't be afraid of putting out your voice and your experience out there.
Thank you very much for that, Doctor. Thanks for your for the long conversation we had so far, and it was very beautiful. A lot of interesting points. I think we're getting a few more questions, but we will take these questions and we'll answer them in the respective channels through AHMP. And thank you very much. We'll conclude this program.
Thank you, it's
Thank you,
been a great
audience.
evening. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much.
you, audience, for being very attentive. Yeah, thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much.